Have you ever noticed how the most captivating people in any room aren't usually the ones dominating the conversation? Why is it that those who speak less often seem to carry a certain magnetic quality that draws others toward them? Think about it. In a world where everyone is fighting to be heard, there's something undeniably powerful about the person who chooses their words carefully. You've probably been in situations where someone's endless chatter left you exhausted, while a few thoughtful words from someone else stayed with you for days. This isn't just coincidence. There's a psychology behind why verbal restraint creates such powerful attraction. Today, I want to explore why the most attractive people say less and how understanding this can transform your dating life and relationships. Let's start with something we all know, but rarely acknowledge. We live in a culture of overexposure. Social media has trained us to share every thought, every meal, every minor accomplishment. We're constantly broadcasting ourselves, convinced that more visibility equals more value. But what if the opposite is true? What if holding back creates a space that others feel compelled to fill? The truth is, when you're constantly talking, you're not just sharing information, you're revealing your entire hand. You're eliminating mystery, which is one of the most powerful forces of attraction. Think about someone you've been drawn to. Did they tell you everything about themselves right away? Or was there something left to discover, something that made you want to lean in closer? That space between what's known and unknown, that's where attraction thrives. When you say less, you become a puzzle that others want to solve. But this isn't about playing games or being artificially mysterious. It's about understanding the value of your words and the power of your presence. Let's look deeper at why this works. First, selective speech signals confidence. When you don't feel the need to fill every silence, you demonstrate that you're comfortable in your own skin. You're not seeking validation through constant verbal output. You're secure enough to sit with silence, to listen, to observe. And confidence, genuine confidence, is universally attractive. Pause and consider the most confident person you know. They probably don't ramble or overtalk. They likely say what needs to be said, then stop. Their words carry weight precisely because they use them judiciously. Second, saying less creates space for curiosity. When you don't overshare, you leave room for questions. You give the other person a chance to wonder about you, to become invested in learning more. This mutual discovery process is the foundation of meaningful connection. Have you ever had someone tell you their entire life story within minutes of meeting them? How did it feel? For most of us, it's overwhelming. There's no space left for genuine curiosity or discovery. The relationship has nowhere to go because there's nothing left to unfold. Third, and perhaps most importantly, saying less means you're listening more, and being truly heard is one of the deepest human needs. When you listen, really listen, you make the other person feel valued in a way that no amount of clever conversation can. Think about a time when someone gave you their complete attention, not just waiting for their turn to speak, but truly absorbing what you were saying. How did that make you feel? That feeling is rare in our distracted world, which makes it incredibly powerful when you offer it to someone else. So how do we apply this understanding, create more attraction and deeper connection? Start by becoming comfortable with silence. Many of us fill quiet moments out of anxiety, but silence isn't your enemy. It's a tool. It creates space for meaning, for thought, for the kind of connection that happens beyond words. Next time you're in conversation, try pausing for a beat longer than feels natural. Watch what happens. The other person will often share something deeper, something they might not have revealed if you had jumped in with your own thought. Next, practice the art of the thoughtful response. Instead of reacting immediately to everything said to you, take a moment. Consider your words. Quality over quantity. A single insightful comment carries more weight than 10 generic responses. Remember, the goal isn't to be silent, it's to be selective, to speak with intention rather than from obligation or anxiety. Think of your words as currency. When you spend them rarely, their value increases. This approach requires a fundamental shift in how you view communication. It's not about proving how interesting or knowledgeable you are. It's about creating connection through the balance of sharing and discovering. Let me share something personal. For years, I thought being attractive meant having the perfect thing to say, the clever comeback, the impressive story. I'd leave social events exhausted from performing, wondering why I still felt disconnected despite all my talking. It wasn't until I started saying less that I began creating deeper connections. I discovered that holding back wasn't about being aloof. It was about creating space for genuine exchange. When I stopped flooding conversations with my words, I started seeing the person across from me. And remarkably, they started seeing me too, the real me, not just the performed version I was projecting. Here's another crucial point. Saying less helps you avoid the attraction-killing trap of oversharing. We've all experienced the instant intimacy that comes from sharing personal details early in a relationship. It feels good in the moment. There's a rush of connection, a false sense of closeness. But this premature vulnerability often leads to what psychologists call emotional flooding, overwhelming the natural pace of connection and actually preventing deeper bonds from forming. True intimacy unfolds gradually. It's earned through consistent presence, through proving you can be trusted with small confidences before larger ones are shared. When you respect this natural timing by being selective with your words and your revelation, you create the conditions for authentic attraction to develop. Consider how we value things in other areas of life. Limited edition items command higher prices. Rare experiences feel more special. Scarcity creates value. The same principle applies to your self-expression. When every thought isn't immediately verbalized, the ones you do share carry more significance. Now, I want to address a common misconception. Saying less doesn't mean being cold or withholding. It's not about creating artificial distance or playing mind games. It's about being intentional with your communication. It's about understanding that not every thought needs to be expressed. Not every silence needs to be filled. The most attractive people aren't those who say nothing. They're those who speak with purpose. They listen fully before responding. They ask questions that show genuine interest. When they do speak, their words have substance because they've taken the time to consider what truly matters. Think about the difference between someone who constantly talks about themselves and someone who shares thoughtfully, who balances telling with asking, who seems genuinely interested in the exchange rather than the performance. Which would you be more drawn to? This brings us to an important point about authentic connection. When you say less, you create space to observe, to notice subtle cues that might otherwise be missed. You pick up on body language, on shifts in energy, on the unspoken messages that often contain more truth than words. This awareness allows you to connect on a deeper level. It helps you see the person beneath the conversation, to respond to what they're really saying, not just the words they're using. So how do you put this into practice? Here are some tangible steps. First, before speaking, ask yourself, does this add value? Does it deepen connection? Or am I just filling space? Second, practice the 80-20 rule in early dating interaction. Aim to listen 80% of the time and speak 20%. This ratio helps ensure you're learning about the other person while maintaining enough mystery about yourself. Third, embrace the power of the thoughtful question. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, genuinely curious about the other person. The quality of your questions will reveal more about you than any story you could tell. And finally, remember that actions speak louder than words. Show your interest through your presence, your undivided attention, your responsiveness, your engaged body language, rather than through constant verbal reassurance. When you embody these principles, something remarkable happens. The quality of your connections transforms. You begin attracting people who value depth over performance, substance over constant stimulation. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because you're creating space for real connection in a world starved for it. This isn't just about dating, it's about cultivating a presence that draws others to you in all areas of life. The most attractive quality isn't physical beauty or verbal charm, it's the security to be still, to listen deeply, to speak with intention. It's the wisdom to understand that in a world of noise, thoughtful silence stands out. So next time you feel the urge to fill a silence, to overshare, to perform rather than connect, pause. Remember that your most attractive self emerges not when you're proving your worth through endless words, but when you're secure enough to let the spaces between those words speak too. The most magnetic people aren't those who say the most, they're those who make their words count. And in doing so, they create an invitation that others find impossible to resist. The invitation to discover, to connect, to experience the rare gift of being truly seen and heard. That's the real secret of why the most attractive people say less. It's not about saying nothing. It's about saying what matters and letting the rest fall away. Take this awareness with you into your next interaction. Notice what shifts when you speak less, but with more intention. Observe how the quality of your connections begins to transform. Because ultimately, true attraction isn't about how much you say, it's about how much you mean it.